Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Shintaro Higashi with the Shintaro Higashi Show with Peter Yu. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about leveling up your judo, like immediately leveling up.
Right.
Ways to think about it, ways to approach it, a little bit of techniques and tactics and stuff like this, right?
So we're talking about the basic techniques. You can do the throws. And
Everybody knows the techniques.
Right, but then
Sasai,
exactly.
Ippon Seinagi, Osotogari, Ochi. How do you level up from there? Inside
Right.
trip, outside trip, arm throw. Everyone knows that.
So maybe you've been working on this particular throw, but it doesn't really work in Randori that well. But how to actually level up and execute those throws in the real setting.
That's right.
So what would be the first concept that you would recommend thinking about?
So let's start off with how do people train most of the time?
Right.
Here's an arm throw, do it. Arm throw, arm throw, arm throw. Doing it repeatedly. Now it's like, go try it.
Right.
Doesn't work. You're only going for arm throws. Doesn't work. There's no context surrounding it, right? There's a lot of precursor skills that are necessary before you could throw the person with an arm throw. Or you're attacking a very specific time, right? So now you could look at it like Ippon Seinagi Kochi, complementary, because it goes back and forth. Now you have two attacks, right? It's like if you're wrestling, single leg, high crotch. That leg. I'm attacking the right leg, I'm attacking the left leg. Now you could chain those two moves together, right? But chain wrestling is a little bit different from judo because when you're chain wrestling, there's nothing holding you back with the gi, right? If someone has a hold of you, now you're stuck in that position. As opposed to wrestling, inside control can slip, right? Hand position is very, very fleeting, right? Unless you take the person out of position. So grip fighting, positional fighting looks a little bit different from wrestling and judo, right? So now you're thinking Ippon Seinagi Koichigari back and forth, but it's not enough because you haven't really taken into account grip fighting yet.
Right.
So that's level 2 immediately. Putting together techniques in a complementary way, but knowing that's not enough to be able to throw someone consistently.
Right.
And
So
here's a couple of go ahead.
I was going to ask. So how would you suggest people practice the combinations? Just like kind of when you do uchikomis, just try to pick a combination and work on it, or
So before I even talk combinations, I just want to talk complementary throws.
complementary throws.
And then the basic level up is misdirection. I fake one way, go in the other direction. Right? I fake this way, I go like that. Like if you're doing like a crossover in basketball.
Right.
Right? It's like that.
I see. So it's not about just pick your favorite 2 throws and then practice them together.
It can be. It can be. But misdirections first, because that concept is a lot easier to understand. So you pick 2 techniques going in opposite directions. Sasai, Harai.
Right.
Sasai, Osoro. Ouchi, Ippon Seinagi.
Right.
Right? And now you can sort of shorten the complementary sort of opposing directions.
Right.
Kochi, Tayo. Right? So it's going like this, right? It's angling off.
Like that's just the same side. Yeah.
Yeah, based on the opponent's reaction.
Right.
Right? And a lot of people do this kind of thing like, okay, I go Kochi into Tayo. Why doesn't it work? What am I doing wrong? It's not what you're doing wrong. It's the opponent's reaction. If they're not giving you a specific reaction, that second technique's not going to be there. Kochi, Taitoshi. Small inside trip to the leg throw. Taitoshi, body drop. Right?
Yeah.
Trying to hit this. But when I go Kochi and the person drops to his stomach, there is no Taitoshi. That's just an extreme example.
Right.
But that's always sort of that range of how is this person reacting? Inside trip, the person's hopping away from you, right? And going backwards, there's no more turn throw because he's not giving you that reaction for the turn. So a lot of the times like Ouchi, Ippon Seinagi, back attack, forward attack, right? So now we're trying to drill this and people are trying to force it. It's not, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. Yes, because the person's hopping away from you and the momentum's going in that way. Therefore, Ouchi Osoro, inside trip, outside trip, because they're going in that same direction.
Same direction, yeah.
Right? So now it's like that's a little bit more of a combination as opposed to a misdirection.
Right. I see.
So that's sort of the tier up from just doing inside trip, just doing outside trip. And you have to have that fundamental building block to be able to make these shapes of these techniques with a cooperating body. Right. You have to have that before you move on to this. Right? So you have the individual attacks. Now you have the complementary attacks. and you're going to drill these things using this misdirection concept. Like make it look like I'm going this way, and then I go the other way.
Right. So now you kind of learn these complementary attacks and then like kind of misdirections and whatnot. So what would be the next level?
Would be sort of combinations.
The combinations.
So now, and I already made that example, Ochi or Soto, and I'm reading my opponent's reactions.
Right.
So that's sort of the next level up from there. And now we're not really talking Randori yet. We're only talking cooperative settings.
I see. Not even Randori,
Because if we're trying to apply this idea, now we're drilling this stuff. I want to do this to Peter in a live setting and slam him. Right? We have to have position. We have to have better positioning. Right? If you're pulling down on my head and then my posture is compromised, I'm not a very athletic athlete there.
Yeah.
I'm not capable of making these movements because my movement is restricted.
Right.
So if you're going to do it in live, then you have to have positional advantages, positional abilities, right? Grip fighting. Even if you're losing, right, there's degrees of how bad you're losing in position. Right. So then, if you look at an extreme example, right? If I'm down on my hands and knees and you're behind me with your hooks in and you have my back, we're doing newaza, there really is no Tayatoshi or Ochi or Soto. That's an extreme example. Right. So there's varying degrees of that.
Right. I
so
see.
Even if I'm losing by position just a little bit, I can still kind of go for stuff, right? Although maybe it's not the smartest thing to do, but you still can go for it. And I could overcome slight losing positions by being stronger or faster, or surprising the person. I could still do that.
I see. So you kind of gave us some examples on the complementary throws, like the sasai to harai, all this like opposing throws. So what would be some of the examples of these combinations? You already mentioned Ochi to Osoto. So there's like a little bit of different way to mixing things up here, right?
Yeah. So misdirection really is like I do one thing, the person gives me a reaction. I fake that one thing and go the opposite way. Right. And so people confuse that with combination. It's not really a combination. I'm anticipating a reaction and going in the opposite way. That's sort of that complementary thing. Right. Boom, boom. Quick. Right. Fakey pon senagi gives me a defensive reaction backwards. Fakey pon senagi go kochi.
I see.
Right. But if I do an ochi, boom, create space, and the person pushes back into me, I turn and drop senagi, and now the person's going above me. Right? That's a little bit more of a combination. Right? I'm putting together two moves in a way based on the person's reaction. I'm doing it on the fly almost.
I see. So it's in the first case, the complementary throws. With the first technique, you're not even trying to throw the person with the first technique, really.
I do it once and see if they bite, and then if they give me a reaction.
If
they give me a reaction, then I can try to exploit that reaction.
I see.
Yeah.
But on the the combination side, you're like really trying to throw with the first throw, but then if it fails, you immediately go for the another one.
Potentially, right? Because it depends on like if I go Ochi and then the person keeps giving me a certain reaction, right?
As
opposed to like faking it and then going into something else, I might try to force that same reaction and then use that to go for the next thing. Right? Mixed direction is almost like a direct attack. It's like a much shorter direct attack.
Right.
So you have direct attack, misdirection, then combination.
I see.
Right. The difference between misdirection and combination, it's just a little bit more of a longer form for the combination. That's how I try to classify it to make it a little bit more understandable for people.
I see.
Yeah. And then the better position you're in, the more likely they are to respond to the first threat, the first stimulus.
So then let's talk about the positions, because all these combinations, misdirections, all complementary throws wouldn't work because we were just talking about working on these in a cooperative setting, but we have to move on to non-cooperative setting, and then for that you need positioning. Right. So how would you recommend people work on that?
Well, there's a whole gripping system.
Right.
Whole positional advantage system. Kind of hard to teach them now.
Right.
I guess like listen to me, like right hand goes here, left hand goes there, blah, blah. Right? So you can check out my YouTube videos, and then I have a ton of videos and resources on that.
Right.
But the general consensus is, right, better position of your hands lead to better application of your techniques.
Right.
The better position of my hands, the more the threat is for you to get thrown. Therefore, you're much more likely to respond and react to my initial threats.
Right.
Right?
Because you essentially like you can force your game onto someone else instead of you
more,
reacting to whatever your partner's doing. Yeah.
And grip fighting and positional fighting are a little bit different. Grip fighting, you're coming out the gate and just fighting for grips. A lot of initial contact stuff is very important. Positional advantages and positional adjustments, you're already linked up and now you're making small adjustments to gain incremental position.
Right.
And a lot of the times you do this by attacking the feet, moving, off balancing, showing threats, and then adjusting a little bit more. Right? So now you have contextually, right? The entire context of the things. You're not just doing inside trip, outside trip, hip throw, right? You're doing grip fighting, positional adjustment and positional fighting, direct attacks, misdirections, combinations. So you see how it sort of cascades all the way through. Right? And then in between, what you don't see is the feints. Showing the feints, cloaking your attacks, right? Even if it's a direct attack, a lot of the international guys, right? Grip fighting, advantage, adjust a little bit, looking for that Asoto. Right? They don't just dive bomb for one Asotogari.
Right.
You're like, fake the Soto.
Right.
Quick feint. So now you see how the other person's reacting. Does that person respect your Asoto?
Right.
If he's leaning in the opposite direction, now you could fake and then do a misdirection to side. Right?
Right. It's like, yeah. So it's more like you're kind of approaching your randori or matches in a more like you're thinking more. You're like trying to make the throw happen instead of just going for the throw directly and whatnot. Yeah.
And all these are specific skills, right?
Right.
Grip fighting, advantage, over the back, fake Asoto. The person's like, this guy's not going for Asoto. Asoto, boom.
Right?
Yeah. So like now, you have a real threat.
Uh-huh.
And if you could get yourself in that advantage position every single time, that Asoto is going to be very powerful. But you can't just bomb Asoto every single time because they could just wait for it. So that's why you cloak that attack.
Right.
Fake.
Right.
Pause. Hey, I'm going for it. No, I'm going for Sasai. Now I'm bombing you Asoto. Kind of like that.
I see.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. And all of this, I mean, it's hard to just, it's not easy to get. I think it requires a lot of practice on that.
So, a lot of practice.
Yeah.
But you could practice all this stuff. And I think there's a missing element a lot of the times when people learn a new skill, learn technique, learn a new combination. They drill it for 5 minutes in a absolutely cooperative setting. And now, okay, try it. Go live, which is like 70 to 100%. Right? There's a big gap. There needs to be sort of an intermediary. Right? Where, okay, I start with advantage. I'm faking, and then going, right? And I'm only limited to these attacks. So now the other person's giving some sort of defense, like 30, 40%. There needs to be that intermediary step. And that's something that I've been really trying to work on and teach and preach at the dojo right now.
I see. They go more positional drilling in a way.
Yeah, it's like drilling, but it's not really drilling. It's like modified live almost.
I see.
But specifically to acquire a certain skill. And, it was a big thing that was missing for a while, I think, in the training. And I think a lot of people missed it because it's like, okay, Uchikomi, here's technique of the day. It's Ochi, go like this. Go do it in Randori, go. People are figuring it out. It's like, I can't do it. I can't really figure it out. I don't understand why. Because there's a big gap between learning the technique, doing that one throw, and then hitting it in the live context.
Right.
Because in a live context, the person's also trying to throw you. They're trying to counter you, trying to pull your head down. They're fighting for position. They're going for grips. They're doing Ippon Senagi. They're dropping to the floor. They're attacking their waza. They're doing all these different things, and you're just looking for that ochi. How do I do it? Sensei, I can't do it. I don't know what's going on. And then Sensei usually like, you're not making the circle with your foot. It's like, no, man, that's not what it is.
Right. Because the person will probably know... the person will probably know how to do ochi properly. It's just all the other context around it. Yeah.
And sometimes they just can't even make the shape of the throw, period. Then you really can't hit it ever.
Right.
And then they say, it doesn't work. I quit. Right?
So I guess this is more of a modern more modern way of training, I guess, in a way, because traditionally,
Yeah.
like in Japan, they could have more mat time and more bodies to train with. So this kind of just happens organically.
Yeah.
And
It's this deliberate
yeah,
practice situation, right? That's like sort of in the research now with like if you're looking at tennis and you're looking at a high backhand, right?
right.
Now it's like, okay, I how do I hit the high backhand, whatever it is. And you like, oh, you go
Yeah.
like this. Okay, great. Do it a few times and now you're playing tennis. And now how many times do you encounter that specific shot in a one game or one match or however you call
Right.
one setting, one
Yeah.
practice? Not that many, right? But if you have a great coach, it's like, hey, we're just going to specifically work on this high backhand. We're just going to hit the ball to you every time. You're going to encounter this same stimulus, 150 times as practice. Go. Same thing. Over. So now next time you see it in a live setting, they're like, there it is. I know how to do this. Boom. Right? You did hit it. Same thing in judo. Losing position, tomonage.
Right.
Right? It's like, okay.
How many times do you see it?
How many times have you done it?
Yeah.
How many times have you been in that exact situation going for that exact same tomonage?
Right.
Not that many. Since they taught it to me the other day, I did it 4 or 5 times. Now I'm expected to hit it in a live setting. No, it'll never work. So now all of a sudden you're in a live randori setting and then you're spamming it like 6, 7 times every single time. Every single time the person gets dominant position, you drop to your back, go for tomonage. No one's going to want to work out with you. Right. So it has to be a specific dedicated drill of like, all right, man, we're going to go like 30%. I'm drilling this specific thing. You could focus on grip fighting and beating me in grips. I'll let you get there. Once I get there, I'm going to work on my tomonage. Give me like 30% resistance, okay?
Right.
So now, out gripped, moving fake, the tomonage, right? And then you're doing it over and over so you get 10, 15 reps in a 2-3 minute period.
So so you said this is like you try to dedicate more time to for more this directed drilling or practice, I should say.
I'm trying to, right? I'm trying to, and I'm preaching it a little bit. Like, so if someone is doing, specifically asking me these questions, like, hey man, during uchikomi time, do this kind of a drill instead. And I've been kind of doing that.
I see.
Not everyone can do it at the same time. Not everyone can do this period because a good portion of people can't even do Taio period. Right. So they have to be able to do it. And then if you have a partner that is not a good uke, who can't take the drills period, now, right, you need knowledgeable resistance. You need skilled resistance. So it has to almost be this person can provide skilled resistance. This person can provide resistance at, X percentage of intensity, right? These two people can work on it. And this person's working on this person's working on that. And now there's sort of a synergistic thing where they can make each other better both. And then I'll be like, all right, you guys work on this.
Right.
Okay, you guys go over here and do
So
that.
so when people ask, you try to pair the person up with the right uke?
Not when people ask, because a lot of the times people are asking questions that aren't going to lead to this kind of a drill. A lot of the times it's questions like, hey, sensei, how do I do an arm bar? It's like, go ask that guy instead. That's not,
Right.
And I won't be a dick about it, but it's like, this drill doesn't really fit into the person that doesn't know how to do an armbar yet.
Right.
This
is
idea,
a level up, yeah.
So this is a level up episode. This is not for, maybe for white belts.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's the assumption is that you need to know the basics. Like you need to know how to hit it. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Right.
I think this is more relevant in Newaza. Because everybody can provide, and then there's a lot less fear.
Right.
Pass the guard retention. Pass the guard retention. 30% speed. You're going to let the guy pass your guard because the goal is to do guard retention, right? Guy passes the guard. You're trying to retain guard, right? You're going to let the person do it because the person on the bottom is drilling for the retention.
Right.
Cooperative drill at 30% resistance.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I noticed that
you could do this. Yeah.
Yeah, in BJJ practice, this is more natural. I think this kind of.
Well, there's no fear. You could have two beginners do that. Now it's like, all right, we're going to do 30% speed where you're trying to throw a Sotogari in the other guy, and then guys chopping at the knees. They don't want to get thrown. They get stiffen up. And now it's like you can't do it. You just can't do this drill safely.
Yeah.
So this sort of has to come into play a lot later when you have skilled opposition, safe people in the room who can benefit from this kind of exercise, right? So that's like the leveling up part.
This kind of this kind of points to the important fact that about judo, where it's not just about throws. You need to be able to take the throws as well. You know, you need to be able to be a good partner.
Be able to be a good partner,
not just to protect yourself, but to improve, help each other improve.
Yeah,
and do this kind of drilling. Yeah,
and you need a good person to sort of guide it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking the drill yourself and you're having a conversation like, oh, you see what I'm doing here? I'm stepping out and going taya. It's easy to take 2-3 minutes of that drill time and spend it explaining to the other person. And now you're just talking the whole time. No one's actually doing anything. Like, it's very, 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 very easy to fall into that trap. And I see it all the time. It's like, hey, man, you guys worked out together for 4 minutes. I saw maybe 4 attacks the whole time. Like, what are you guys doing? Stop having a conversation. And I always say, like, all right, we're drilling this now. Go ahead, do it. No one needs to hear your dissertation about the history of Osotogari. Like, give one thing that's feedback, and then let them work on it. Especially when there's like a brown belt working with a yellow belt, brown belt working with a white belt, and then they're just like explaining it. No, your pinky's not in the right place, your toes are not in the right place, you're not pulling it off, Kazushi's not there, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, man, shut up! Just freaking let the guy work.
Because it's all those like small details will be picked up by doing them.
You got to do it first and foremost,
you
right?
First. Yeah,
you can't just sit there and listen to the person. It's like, why wouldn't you just watch a YouTube video then? They're there to actually do it, right? And then if you're gonna give feedback, give one feedback. Make it concise. As I always say in the dojo, less talking, more judo. Even when I instruct, I limit my instruction 3-minute chunks. That's it.
Right.
I do 3 minutes. Go try it. Give individualized feedback, like walking down the line. Hey, Peter, you do this, or and why don't you guys work on this, or whatever it is. All right, bring it in. This is what I'm seeing across the board. 40% of you guys are doing like this. We're gonna refine it. If you already mastered it, we're gonna do this new thing here. Go try it. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. That's it. Go try it.
Right.
So like 3 minutes instruction, 4 or 5 minutes to do it. 3 minute instruction, 4 or 5 minutes to do it.
Efficient, a lot of reps.
Yeah.
I see.
That's 15-20 minutes right there.
And then randori.
Yeah, well, nagekomi maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nagekomi.
Yeah.
That's I guess nagekomi in a way is it's more of a that one you need a good uke too, because and then people tend to chat during that time too. Yeah.
It's like they get on the nagekomi mat and they're like, how do you do ippon senagi? It's like, no, man, stop asking that question right now. Like, you're holding up the entire line.
Right. You should be just doing ippon senagi right now.
It's like ippon senagi, boom, boom, boom. What am I doing wrong? Like, am I doing this correctly? Does it feel good? Like, what should I do? Am I pulling enough? It's like, just freaking do it, man. I saw this on YouTube the other day. Like, can I try this on you? And then it's like, what is it? It's like a sode with one arm with a front flip. It's like, no, you're not trying that on me, man.
Oh, like the competition version, like the Ronda Rousey thing, where you just
that
somersault over. Yeah, that's
the front flip sode. It's like, no, you're not doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so we have to. The basic fundamental thing is you have to have a good foundation. You have to know the individual techniques. You should be able to do it. In a cooperative setting, like perfectly. Then you can add things on, like the complementary attacks, feints, combinations, and then you can move on to positioning, like grip fighting, positioning, yada yada yada. And on top of that, to work on these things, you need to be able to also take your falls right. You have good uke, So it's like, this is the level up. I think this is the real, like where the fun part begins, or more frustrating part in a way.
Yeah, a little bit frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, this
gotta
is
figure
the
this out.
Yeah.
And then you could look at newaza transition, which is the biggest gap in judo. Right. It's like, all right, we're doing newaza. One person gets into this down position. Okay, let's start. Right.
Yeah.
All right, we're doing newaza. Okay, I'm gonna be in bottom guard. Let's go. Right. As opposed to like judo. Hit the ground, boom, newaza begins.
Right.
Who trains that? The National Training Center trains that.
Mm-hmm.
All our Olympians in the United States train that.
Right.
But dojos, do they specifically train that? Sometimes it's hard, right? For us too. It's like when there's too many people on the mat, which is like a frequent occurrence nowadays, it's like we can't actively train transitions because bodies be flying, people be getting hurt.
Right.
So we compartmentalize the training. All right, we're doing stand-up cooperative drills. Now we're doing newaza, right? We don't let these people do tachiwaza here and newaza going on at the same time because someone will land on somebody.
Right.
And that's from a safety and safety perspective, right? We have to do it like that. But that's the biggest gap of judo. And that's the beauty of judo newaza over other types of newaza.
Yeah.
Because you're really attacking that transition. Because once you're settled on the ground, you only have a finite amount of time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nothing's happening, back up to your feet. It's like freestyle and Greco wrestling. Parterre, boom, hit the ground, go for the gut wrench or lift right away. If nothing's happening and you're trying to settle your grips and settle this, like, okay, back to your feet.
Right. Yeah. I think that transition, there was a big gap in my game too. I've been trying to work on it, but I used to go, if I go for a turn through like Seoinage, I will expose my neck and I will get choked a lot in the competitions. And things like that. Because you're right, like how many times do you actually get into that situation during practice?
Yeah, I mean, you should, right? I mean, I have days where if there's not that many people on the mat, which is very rare, or at the end of a practice where most of the people have done their rounds and they've gone home. Tired, it's like, all right, we're going to go 3 pairs on the mat. Failed attack, transition to newaza. That's what we're doing.
Right.
Newaza transitions, and then you've seen me do this. Okay, losing position, grip fighting. As soon as you lose position with the grips, you go for tomonage, transition newaza, over under pass and go.
Right.
We've seen that kind of exercise, but time is so limited when you're running a club, right?
Right.
You can't really focus, and people don't like deliberate training that much. And it's like specifically doing the same thing over and over, just for the purpose of winning. It's not really fun for a lot of people. A lot of times it's figuring out the game and being involved in playing this game. You know what I mean? It's like you enjoy playing chess, but how many people enjoy doing tactics?
Yeah, or like just
chess tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
You love baseball, right? But just working on one small aspect of the game generally is not that fun.
Right.
And people tie together doing those tedious, boring exercises with winning. That's usually the general motivator, right? But, if you're not competing, if you're doing it for fun, if you're doing it for fitness, right? Competition's not really... Right, in your mindset, then you don't get that much out of these drills, right?
I guess that's another challenge. I mean, I think yes, and that is true, but I think there are ways to kind of frame the drill, this deliberate training, in a more fun way. Like try
that's
to,
true. Yeah,
you can you can kind of gamify it, like because it's all about the instant gratification, and then you get into this virtuous cycle.
For sure. For sure.
We've
been doing like, start in losing position, stand and go. Right? We've been doing a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Well,
it's but like I said, this can be frustrating, this leveling up process, but this is, I think, where judo really becomes judo to a lot of the beginners. Like when you start, looking at these different aspects of judo.
Yeah.
And all right, well, anything else to add before we end?
Nope, that's it. Hope you level up in judo. Reach out to us, mostly Peter on Instagram at all hours of the night.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you.